welcome to the Multi-Group Leadership Podcast. Abe, good to see you again.
Yeah, thanks, Walter. Good to see you.
We have some special guests with us today. Scott, this is a return trip for you, right?
It is.
Welcome back. Glad to have you.
Yeah. Thank you.
If you don't know, Scott Hickman, success coach for the Multi-Group here in Northwest Michigan.
Yeah.
Love what you're doing, my friend.
Thank you.
Lindsay,
Hello.
welcome.
Thank
How are you? Lindsay
Hi.
Winchester. What is your role? Tell us about
Connections coordinator.
that. Well, you are the connections coordinator for the
A
Multi-Group.
very
Love it.
unique role.
Yeah. Thanks for pioneering something brand new.
Yeah, it's exciting.
We might actually get to talk about that pioneering effort because of these chapters a little later. Let me, as we always do, so if you're a first-time listener, thanks for tuning in. We're excited you're a part of the Friend Network, as we're calling this. If you are a longtime listener, which means you've probably listened to like 14 or 15 of these, welcome back, and thanks for being engaged. This is really about helping leaders take the material in the Leader's Guide, and we're using version 1.0. And today we're going to be talking about a couple of chapters that I think are just very near and dear to the people sitting in this room. So the first chapter is entitled The Center of What We Do. And let me just give kind of a quick summary. This chapter is pretty self-explanatory, but I think there's a couple of points that are worth kind of drawing to the surface. Really the heartbeat of the Monti family and the purpose of the platform of business is to see greatness in people before maybe they see it in themselves. And we do that through value creation in the marketplace, right? Whether it's peeling veneer in the mill or creating resorts that have a community feel to them out in California, constructing an infrastructure, precast, innovation. If you're in Astor Brands, like every company has its kind of thing that they do. And the job of us as leaders is to really look for and calibrate our eyes to see greatness in people before they see it in themselves. Mm-hmm. So I think that's kind of the general, like if we cut to the core, it is, and that comes from a biblical worldview of we're image bearers. An earlier chapter in this book, it's about the foundation of faith for the family, but we believe people are created in the image of an amazing, holy God. Mm-hmm. And so every person walking around in every business bears an image in a very unique way. And so I think this chapter is really helping us kind of understand that's the heartbeat of leaders. It's not to control things. It's not to be in control. It is to understand that you're stewarding a responsibility for a team or a person and helping them see that they have meaning and worth and purpose. I love one of the highlighted quotes. It's on the first page 116, if you're in version 1.0 of the book. It's the last part of a sentence. I'm going to read the whole sentence. It says, being good at accomplishing tasks as an individual contributor might weigh in on an opportunity for a leadership role, but it is the desire and ability to lead and care for people that ultimately qualifies leaders. And we put some guardrails around that. We say humility, discernment, and initiative are values of a leader. And I think those are values that help us demonstrate what caring for people actually looks like. So discernment applied here is, I see the potential, Lindsay, in you before you see it in you. And then I call that out, or I speak the truth over you, or speak life into you before you even believe it's real.
Yeah.
I don't take credit for that, but I think that's, that would be an example of somebody on a team being able to practice that. And we'll get into that in the second chapter we're going to cover today, but I think it's a good illustration. I think maybe a bit of a cautionary tale is in this chapter is take care of what's in front of you. Mm-hmm. If you feel like you have more capability inside you, make sure you're doing a great job of taking care of what's in front of you, and that will get recognized. So leaders, if you're hearing my voice right now, our collective voice, our job is to recognize who are the people on the team that are stewarding or taking good care of what's in front of them. Mm-hmm. Who's standing in front of that machine and operating it with excellence, and the results demonstrate that excellence. Like that's a job of a leader. And if we're thinking about the center of what we do, I'm paying attention to that.
Yep.
So let me open the floor up for a minute and say, what are examples of where you've seen leaders like living this out, or where have we maybe failed at it? Because I've failed at doing this. Mm-hmm. So Scott, like what first comes to mind? Is there a story or an example?
The first thing that comes to my mind is a young lady at one of the businesses, and she was on the front line, and she did an excellent job at what was in front of her in doing the task, and it was noticed. And as I interacted with her and was able to speak the truth to her of how good she was doing, but also she added value, right? She came up with some creative things just in doing her job that some of the other coworkers started implementing. And over the course of a couple of years of employment, she's moved into leadership. And it was one of those things I felt like I had the opportunity to speak that truth about her. You are an excellent leader. And she looked at me somewhat confused because she didn't see that in herself.
Not yet.
Not yet. And yet, as she's moved into, for the last, I think 6 months or so, into leadership, she's becoming more confident as other people are also speaking
affirming
that and affirming that. And I continue to. And it's been a really neat, just to be a part of watching her grow into being a leader. And honestly, she will go beyond that and leading even at greater levels as she understands that more about herself. So it's not just me. I just happen to have noticed and spoken that, but other leaders alongside of that have also spoken that into her life. And it's been really neat to watch her just accept it and excel into that. Yeah.
There's I appreciate that story, and it highlights another element of this chapter. It says, as a leader, you must be engaged daily with your team. Mm-hmm. They are your mission. So the team is now, this lady's mission is now the team, not the individual contributor role, but the team is now her mission, their work, whether that's standing in front of a machine or answering the phone. I don't know which business. You didn't tell us. That's great. But no matter what the business is, the work of that team is their job. Her job is now leading that team. And there's a transition that happens there. That's an interesting transition.
Yeah.
Abe, what's on your mind about this chapter?
I just think that statement you said, Scott, which is really in this paragraph here on page 116, calling out the greatness you see in someone can sometimes be what brings it into existence. And someone I know, he was in a really tough spot in his life and living in a group home, and an individual came in and just shared, hey, just to the whole group, hey, each of you guys has a calling and a purpose in life. And you'd think that would be just a past comment, people would forget it. But this individual's told me that changed this person's life, hearing that statement. He called out that I actually matter and I have a purpose. And as a leader, we don't know how powerful the words that we say are. But one thing I know about myself, I don't call out positive things when I see them nearly as much as I should. And when I see Lindsay do a good job at something, or Walter, or anyone, my wife, whoever it is, calling that out, that oftentimes sees it go to fruition. That's a key point for us. I also want to just reiterate something you said, Walter, about as a leader, you must be engaged daily with the team. They are your mission and the work is their mission. And this concept is really cool because it ultimately is the responsibility of a leader to see the tasks get done. But by allowing others to do the task, two things happen. The tasks get done, but the people also grow underneath. And I've seen that, like, it's so easy to step back in that situation. Right now we're working with a software vendor right now, and Lindsay and Scott, I said, hey, can you guys work with this vendor and roll this thing out? And we got a few months into it, and they came back, Abe, we need you to help in this. And so I'm like, okay, I got to get back involved. But man, how do I do this and not squish the ability for Lindsay and Scott, who are on my team, to execute a project well? And so as a leader, that's a dance sometimes, because sometimes people do need assistance to be able to carry things. But for me to just take it back, okay, fine, I'm just going to carry this thing across the finish line myself. You guys don't grow in your ability to execute the project. And a lot of that, I mean, the reason you came back to me, in fairness, is not because these guys were failing. It's because I didn't give clear direction on some things. I think I own that one.
We weren't going to say it.
Yeah.
Oh, no, there's accountability on this podcast, so we might say it.
But ultimately, you guys being able to execute the project yourself and grow in a project, that the project still gets done. the software vendor, but you also, I know how to execute it. I've done a lot of these things, but man, I would love it for the team to be able to pull that across the finish line themselves.
Sure.
And I think continues in that paragraph too. Don't do their job for them.
Yeah.
Make sure you've given them everything they need and then let them do it.
Yeah.
So, which is what you're doing.
Yeah. Trying.
And where it was lacking, you asked him to bring clarity.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's why you asked him to get back involved. So I think that's like, I always use the phrase, let's talk with real circumstances or live ammo.
Yeah.
That's a real live ammo example. And I bet leaders that are listening can relate to that. If they don't have clarity, it's okay to say to your leader, even as a leader, hey, I'm not what does success look like here?
Right.
And I might say leading with a question, leaders, if you're talking to your manager or your leader, hey, what does success look like here? I thought I understood, but I'm not sure I know right now.
Yeah.
There's a real power. There's a lot of conversation in this chapter about how Jesus led. And one of the things that literally another senior leader and I were having this conversation this morning, questions and stories. That's how Jesus led. So whether you share the faith of the family or the faith with maybe those of us sitting in this conversation today, that's not the relevant issue. A real leader in real history led with questions and stories. And so we're trying to actually model that. So if you're stuck without clarity, you could say, hey, could you get back involved? And we're not exactly sure what success looks like. That's effectively what the two of you did with Abe. Yeah.
Lindsay, do you have anything else from this chapter that stood out to you?
There's a huge part in here that I read and I go, oh, that's me right there. And I just read it. Make sure they have everything they need, then let them do it. So for me, in my role as a connections coordinator, my role is to connect people with resources and help them with whatever stresses they have, and make sure I don't do it for them. So, deliver the package. Here's all the things that you would need, but also let them do it. And so that's been a learning curve for me because I want to just take it all the way to the finish line for them. And there's no, sometimes no dignity in that too. So taking that away. So, and accountability and making sure people are doing just as much work as I am.
There's no development. If you're doing it for them, it's that whole feed them inefficiently, eat for a day, and teach them how to fish, and they'll eat forever. Right? That
I just want to give them all the fish.
Yeah.
That's not going to help.
But that doesn't, that only gets them over this.
I'm doing better, but it's been a little bit of a learning curve.
I appreciate the vulnerability and the honesty. That's true of everybody sitting around this table.
Yeah.
I want to help, but am I helping by giving them everything they need, or probably not?
Well, Walter, working in leadership development for the last, 10 years, what percentage of leaders would say I'm naturally a good delegator?
Precisely 0.
Yeah.
There's something that I want to build on, and then before we kind of shift gears to the next chapter that you're talking about, Lindsay, and I'm thinking about leaders as they step in and they feel the responsibility of getting the job done. The tasks and the operation must be done. And if they have somebody that is not getting it done, like you've given them what they need, but they're not carrying the water across the line, how we think about that is really, really important. I think this is a chapter that can help us ground back in. We want them to grow. So I think it's real practical to sit down. You gave a personal example. I'm not using that, but I'm thinking about if I'm leading somebody and they're not taking the step that I've invited them to take, like, please get these tasks done by this date. If that doesn't happen, I'm responsible. And how I share that level of accountability with them can feel punitive, or it can feel harsh. Let me say it that way. Because I could be angry, or I can go say, let me characterize how not getting that done lets down the team. Not me, but lets down the team.
Right.
And I think framing things in a way where people have ears to hear that's growth on me as the leader. That's where this chapter resonates deeply with me, is I often will tell the story about why those tasks not getting done affected me, or maybe it's going to affect that team member's future, like on the team. But I often miss the opportunity to tell the story about how that's letting the team down.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I think we're, this chapter highlights that we're hiring people to be teammates, and we want teams to succeed. Now, I know there's lots of individual roles that don't have somebody else that's helping them in their particular role, but we can paint the picture of, if it's a manufacturing business example, if the line shuts down, what happens is we're not producing and we're not selling. How does your role play a part in that? And we want to be up and functioning. So,
Right.
I know I could grow as a leader. Even after 30 some odd years of leading, I can continue to grow in making sure that I'm sharing the story in a way that they have ears to hear it. And I am committed to that growth.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else on this chapter before we kind of switch gears? Just any thoughts?
I think we're good.
Okay. So the second chapter is called Long View Leadership. What do we mean by that? Let me start with sort of the framing of this. I think, having a long view means that we're on a journey. Maybe think marathon, not sprint.
Mm-hmm.
We're on a journey in development of our leadership. And as we're leading teams and people, they're also on a journey of growth. And maybe framing this in the mindset of things don't change overnight. We might ask people to change in very specific ways, but I'm going to think of that in smaller increments.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to say. It's like a tongue twister, but I like it. I've got it underlined in my book. It says, here in a phrase is what you're committing yourself to. Many, M-A-N-Y, many, M-I-N-I, moments of change. Many moments of change. It's kind of a tongue twister, but that's what we're looking for in the growth of our team, is having a vision for not holistic change in a person overnight, but breaking it down into small, incremental, very tangible steps of change. And I love the parenting analogy in the back half of this chapter. Like it says, as leaders, we should invest and love our people with the same heart we have for our own kids. So this works as parents, right?
Yeah.
If you're a parent, you get it. Do you want your kids to become better than you, Scott?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
100%.
Why?
Because I love them that much. And I want them to be successful and fulfilled.
So if this is really God's business, entrusted to the Monti family, but God's business as leaders, why wouldn't I want my team to get better? Maybe even than me.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe take my job.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, we wholeheartedly love our kids and want the best for them. I mean, you said it beautifully. Shouldn't our posture be the same for the people that we're leading?
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is both convicting, because it's really easy to come to a job as a leader or as an employee and just sort of say, this is my job. I don't really have to care about people. Here, this chapter is saying, as leaders, we're inviting you to care deeply about your people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that many moments of change thing. We've hosted a number of exchange students, 6 in my family over the years from other countries. And, these kids come from Hungary or Norway or whatever, and they have this dream of coming to the United States and going to New York City and Miami and Disney World and all this stuff. And so the coordinator would meet with us when we first got going and say, and just so they're here for 6 months to a year. And the coordinator would say, don't do anything different than you normally do when the kid's here. Just live your normal life. And man, that just doesn't make sense, because kids have 1 year to spend in the United States. We should do all these things with them. But to a child, when we get all done with the year or the 6 months and we say, what was your favorite part about the year? They'll say, I liked going on vacation. What they really like, though, is eating dinner with the family and doing the dishes. And what that speaks to is what really changes our life is not the moment at Disney World. It's the many moments of change, right? It's rubbing on the person on a day-by-day basis. And further in this book, in a later episode, we're going to talk about the coaching continuum concept, which is exactly that. But it's coming alongside the person on a day-by-day basis and speaking truth to them on a day-by-day basis. And just, hey, leading, that's way more impactful in some of the, we have these occasional big moments, but man, those little moments, that's what molds our character. So as a leader, seeing the long view, it's not your job to do the major transformation in one day of the person. It's the slow rub coming alongside the person.
Well, and I think, Abe, you've mentioned it a couple of times, and you've keyed the phrase of the secret sauce of my position is exactly what you just described, right? I don't sit in my office waiting for every 50 minutes for a new person to come in and see me.
Who's in happens to be in crisis right then.
Right. I walk through, as Lindsay does, we walk through the plants and we rub shoulders looking for those many moments of saying, you did a really good job with your interaction, or you seem stressed today. Is there something we can talk about? And it is amazing how people who, whether they're in need or not, this speaks also to me. It's relationship, right? Relationship with those foreign exchange students, relationship on the floor consistently, day after day, week after week, month after month. And they say, I didn't see you last week. They're missing something because they desire those many moments with us also. Yeah. And as leaders develop those relationships, they have far more opportunities for those many moments.
And there's a number of people, Scott, you've been here 6 years. There's a number of people when you started who were very opposed to the concept of having therapists on staff, who by building relationship with them over time, and I don't know who they are, but I know this is true. I'm pretty sure that over time they have had a personal crisis. And then where do they go? They go to you. And some of them have come to me. That's the reason I know the story, because some of them come to me afterwards and said, Abe, I disagreed with the fact that you hired Scott. I said, what a waste of money. And then when I had a crisis, because I knew the guy and I had built some trust with him, he came and saw me. That's where I went for my help.
It's powerful.
And I think the relationships have grown so strong too that they'll come to either of us with just the small wins too, and just the good stuff. It's not always the crisis stuff. It's the many moments, many moments.
Well, while we're on this concept of this chapter, though, can we circle back quick to the parent-child situation? Because this is you guys had to live this out. You alluded to this a little bit at the beginning. Well, you guys had to live this out, and speak a little bit about, if we could, about that the living out that kind of that idea of seeing Anyway,
child. So in relationship to my position, a year or so ago, I guess it's been a year, over a year now, that Lindsay came into the connection coordinator, which originally was a part of my position. So we're talking about this new position and adding on, and I know there's the need to do that. And yet I still am cautious of getting the right person who will do it as well as I do. Because even knowing that I want my kids to surpass me, I don't know that they're always able to. Are they going to do it my way, the right way, because my way is the right way? Or are they just going to get it done and it's still going to be okay? So as Lindsay came on board, that was something I had to wrestle with. Not really that I'm leading Lindsay, but in partnership, I want her to be successful, but I want her to do it the right way. That's my way. And it's been really neat to walk that out with Lindsay and have those conversations, because she does it differently than I do. She is way more kind than I am. And it's a good partnership, but there's this growth in how do we mature both of us moving forward so we're both successful. And now we're both saying we could use a couple more Lindsays, but not Lindsay, and like different ways to also minister to the employees and what their needs are. But it's a transition as a leader to be able to pour that into and let go of something that I had responsibility.
Excuse me. You remind me of one of the leader values when you say that. It takes a lot of humility to say, I think I know the right way to do this. Lindsay, go do it this way. And she's like, but God wired me slightly differently. And do you mind if I try it another way? And I think it took humility on both of your parts. So commend you for that, but it wasn't easy.
It was a process.
It's a journey. Back to the idea of we have to take the long view. Somebody told me this, so I'm probably quoting somebody, but I don't know who I'm quoting at this point. So forgive me. We'll give credit where it's due when I realize who I'm quoting. There's a change process, and, change is hard, and it's hard for people to accept change, but human nature is they'll adapt pretty quick if they understand why. So butchered the quote, I'm sure, but change is hard, but people adapt pretty fast when they understand why the change is needed. And so I think our job as leaders, I think Abe had to characterize, like, why are we doing this, Scott, with you? I mean, I sat in the room, I think, for at least one of those conversations, not because it was going horribly, but because, well, I've actually got some experience in it. And you joining the team is like, what is my role? I remember these conversations. Like, how do I know I'm succeeding?
Right.
Those are really fair questions. Here we are a little more than a year later, and well, how's it going?
I think it's going really well. And what I really appreciate about Scott too is that although I may want to do something a little different, and maybe that's not the right way. Maybe Scott's way was the right way, but he lets me, doesn't let the mission fail, but lets me try it out and say, oh, okay, Scott's way was the best way.
How did that work?
Yeah. So there's some letting go from him, but some learning on my side too.
And what I've seen, and you can speak to this a little, Lindsay, how would having that dynamic of someone who's letting go, how have you felt like that springboarded you ahead? Meaning, you know what I mean? Meaning you started out in third gear, basically.
Yeah, I was really lucky to have and continue to have Scott's experience and wisdom in these things that I'm doing. And I talk to Scott daily, probably, and coaching me in things I need to do because he's the expert in this.
Well, and the one I still remember your frustration because you had given somebody all of the tools they needed going back to last chapter.
Yep.
And then you went ahead and did it for them also. And then the next week they came back for you to do it for them again.
Yes.
Which is
what did you teach?
Which I don't do that.
Nope. And I have learned not to now.
Yeah. Well, what did you teach? That they didn't need to take responsibility and or accountability for
I gave
their
them
own...
all the fish, and they didn't need to learn.
They didn't need to go to fish.
Right.
Yeah.
But that was probably a good 6-7 months ago. And I still remember the frustration. And she's like,
why won't they do it?
I should not have done that for them.
Yeah. Why won't they do it themselves? Because I did it for them last time.
Well, we're all parents.
Yeah.
And we're not parenting the teams that we're leading. So don't misconstrue the analogy. But you can say, don't touch the hot stove so many times. And then, you know what? If you just must know what that feels like, there it is. And the lesson will be learned very differently.
Yeah.
And so I think leaders, if you're hearing this, Abe, you had a thought. I want to let you
go ahead.
I'm just going to say, if you're hearing this, like, you can be tempted with the pressure or the responsibility to get the tasks done, to go do it yourself. And that is an option. I would say it's not a sustainable option for you. That's the lesson we're talking about here, is it's not sustainable for you to do the tasks. You've been invited to lead the team. And you might be a working leader. I get that, a working supervisor, a working team lead. Like, you have tasks to do too. But if you don't teach them how to fish in the example, they're always going to come back to you for fish.
And it's going to cause some burnout too as a leader.
Absolutely. Stress, anxiety, burnout. Scott could talk about that till he's probably blue in the face. In fact, we're going to be teaching in the coming weeks on how to deal with stress, because leaders take on too much.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a literal thing. So if you're hearing this, what we're inviting you to do is teach the person how to fish, not keep fishing for them.
And what I've heard, just in closing, that in that space, is find small ways that if they fail, the building's not going to burn down.
Yeah.
Like consciously thinking as a leader, here's a way and then be very clear with the expectation. And it's okay if they fail here. We're not going to go out of business, but man, they are not going to learn that lesson. Most of us don't learn lessons through success. We learn them through times we've been allowed to fail.
We learn the most
when
we fail and then have to own the failure and deal with it and come out the other side, right? So, well, thanks guys for joining us today for this episode of the Monte Group Leadership Podcast.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, excited to have you. Hey, if you're getting value from what you're hearing, we just ask that you share it.
Yeah.
There's not a like, subscribe push here. Like, I'm not into social media, but I would say, because we're developing content that works for leaders in all kinds of spaces, if you're getting value out of this, let us know. Let us know what's resonating. We love the feedback. I'm getting comments now very regularly as I'm walking around, like, hey, listen to that episode. Love this tidbit. Let us know what's resonating. Let us know how we can make it better. We're always open to that.
And if you want to share this with your friends, this is not supposed to be exclusive to the Monte Group leaders, meaning we're not out there, again, pushing the like and subscribe thing. But if you have a friend that you say, hey, this guy's in leadership, or this lady's in leadership, could benefit from this, please share it. This isn't something we're trying to hide.
Yeah, it's freely available in all the podcast locations. Yeah. So thanks. Make it a great day. And until next time, thanks for tuning in.
Bye. Copyright 2025, the Monte Group, Petoskey, Michigan.